Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood night. She comes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying,
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of the five-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on a Thursday, September 28th. End of September is upon us. The LA Galaxy getting ready to take on a red-hot Portland Timbers team in a game. Could we call it a must-win? You'll have to stick around to find out. I might be on the precipice of saying must-win in a game that is mathematically not must-win. We're going to talk about that, get you ready for that entire game coming up this weekend. We got some stats, we got some news, we got some fun things in there as well. And joining us here in about 7 minutes or so, we're going to have Chief Creative and Brand Officer Will Misselbrook from the LA Galaxy joining us. We can talk about branding, rebrands, all that sort of fun stuff. So we'll get to a lot of that. To help us do all that, we're glad to have him back. It's Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira. Eric, how's it going, bud?
It's going all right. You all of our listeners and Galaxy fans got a taste of a Texas thunderstorm and lightning storm. So that was kind of exciting to see everyone go through that. And so you may say must win, can't lose. To me, I'm just praying for no weather delay. I think that's the weather is 3-0 against the Galaxy this season.
It's supposed to rain on Saturday and Sunday.
Perfect.
I'm not saying
it is.
It's like 60% chance, like 50%, like in that. So it's not like it's a full on, like storm coming, but it's supposed to rain on Saturday, which puts a damper on the air show. If you're anywhere near Huntington Beach, we've been having the planes and the jets fly over and all that sorts of fun stuff.
Yeah, that's always a fun time.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's nice. So, that's sort of what. But I have a feeling there might be a little damper on that one. So,
Well, good times. How are you doing? Are you devastated, happy about the Taylor Swift news, or are we? Did she dominate your news feed?
I mean, she normally does. If you go on my TikTok, it is T-Swizzle all the way through. I don't know how to feel yet. I'm going to let this one play out. I feel like there's people already choosing sides and picking out like demons and stuff like that. And I actually, this might be the one. I'm just saying. I don't want to jump ahead of it, but this could be, nobody else gets to make Taylor sort of feel like, the small little Taylor, right?
Yeah. I've seen that take. Yeah.
A football player, if a football player was cuddling me, I'd feel like small and warm and comfy. So I'm just saying.
You can do a lot worse from both sides. That's for sure.
What do you make of this LA Galaxy team? I mean, I don't know. We didn't get to talk about the game, but you can talk about the game and the whole and sort of how you feel about this club right now, because I don't know what the correct answer to that question is.
I think the correct answer is that there is no correct answer. To me, this team is making me go through a lot of frustration, and I think this game against Austin kind of summarized that. I can't really be mad at the team because they showed fight. They left it all out on the field. You saw, at the end of the game, the players basically collapse. Mm-hmm. They salvaged a point in what was a really tough situation with the weather delay and, going down a goal. Like they salvaged something out of that. So you don't want to be too upset at them, but also they keep shooting themselves in the foot, these self-inflicted wounds, these, defensive lapses, goalkeeping errors. And so while I could tell myself that I can't be mad, I'm not exactly thrilled with their play either. So it's just one of those tough things. I know it was a road game. I know there was a weather delay. There's injuries, depleted roster, but it felt like this was a missed opportunity because I feel like they could have jumped Austin in the standings. They were ripe for the picking. Austin feeling down about themselves, and that could have given them some grace, needing to travel to Seattle and to Minnesota. And obviously we'll talk about the must win or can't lose at home. But I think now they need to outright win one of those Minnesota or Seattle games.
Right.
I think a draw is not going to cut it. And so that game at Austin felt like the one where they could have gotten the away wins and given them that cushion. So it's those difficult things. And hearing the Panda kind of break things down. Well, if this team gains fewer than 3 points or fewer than 5 points, and I know some of these numbers are going to cancel each other out, but when there's 3 to 5 games left and you're hoping that a team doesn't take away 3 points, so they just have to win 1 out of 3 for the Galaxy to be in good position. That's pretty grim. But if the Galaxy have showed us anything, nothing is over yet. We can't pronounce them dead yet. So the fact that they're still in it is kind of incredible, and you have to tip your cap to that. But there's a lot of missed opportunities at several points throughout the season.
Yes.
But definitely this past weekend against Austin.
How about just winning like 3 or 4 games through the first 14 games or so? Just anything better than what they were at.
Just flipping 2 of these ties, 4 points, puts them
huge,
in, right on that line. Yeah.
I'll say this: I think the draw ends up being even bigger whenever you find out Dallas drew, right? And so fairly good result, not the best result. You wanted Dallas to lose and keep you within 5 points, but as it is, you're still within 2 games at 6 points. And if you didn't get that draw, right, with 0 points there, you'd be 7 points or 3 games basically out from trying to get that, and that's a lot to ask with only 5 games left, right?
Yeah,
there would have been a lot more panic right now. It would have been basically over. Now, I'm not saying it's not over, but you have to do something the Galaxy haven't done, which is win like 4 games in a row.
They have to kick it on. Yeah. Well, it's funny. We'll get to the Portland preview in a little bit as well. But just to give you a little bit of a spoiler, when you look at the form guide, the narrative for both teams can be that there's only 1 loss in 7, but Portland is coming off 4 wins in a row. So we're talking in the last 7, Portland with 16 points and the Galaxy with 12 points. If you just look at their last 4, it's 12 points versus the Galaxy's 5 points. That's a huge disparity. And given where they are in the standings, we're talking about like the magic number, being 42 or 43. Portland's right there. So if they give up any points to this weekend, you could pretty much gift Portland that spot, and that's where we start getting into that must-win, can't-lose territory.
Right. Last was optimism. It's really remarkable to still be in it, right? In this season, with as bad as the start was,
that's the thing. Yeah, the fact that they're still in it is incredible.
13th place, baby. 13th place, owned it. It would almost seem unfair to the rest of the Western Conference if the Galaxy didn't finish in 13th place this season, right? And
that's our spot.
You gotta claim it, right? So. Listen, it's interesting just looking at all the results around the league and then just watching U.S. Open Cup and Miami. I mean, Miami's very much in danger of not making the playoffs, right? And
I think it's safe to call them dead. I think with Messi's injuries, I feel like they're done. The Cinderella ride, they got their Leagues Cup. Right. They had their run, and now that on to next season and their season ticket prices, that's going to be their next hill to climb.
You saw that where the guys' tickets went from $6,000 for 2 seats for $30,000 for 2 seats. I'm like, oh my, okay, I didn't realize.
That's quite the jump. Yeah,
only 3 spots right now. Only 3 spots overall. 3 spots total that are still up for grabs on the Eastern Conference side of things. So as we look at the Eastern Conference and sort of see how that whole thing goes, that's a pretty crazy number to understand that in the Western Conference, there's only 1 team that's clinched a spot. Western Conference, crazy. 1 team, the other thing. All right. Well, we'll take a pause from pondering the LA Galaxy's 13th place and where they'll finish there in order to help us talk a little bit about branding and everything that he sort of has in mind for the LA Galaxy. We're glad to welcome relatively new addition. We didn't get him on right whenever he joined, but we have him on pretty soon now. Will Misselbrook, Chief Creative and Brand Officer for the LA Galaxy. Will, do we have you on?
You do have me on. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, we've been trying to do it for a while. Finally, the lineup's all lined up there. I thought maybe you guys were going to get stuck in Austin, though, so I didn't think we were going to make it on Thursday. I thought maybe you'd have to camp out there.
Well, we kind of did get stuck. We got stuck there for an extra night of that storm. So yeah, that wasn't that fun. But no, I'm sorry I haven't been on this sooner. And honestly, really appreciate being on this. You guys are legendary, so I'm absolutely honored. It's just been a lot going on the last 6 months since I joined.
Yeah, I was going to say it has been busy for you. I mean, that's sort of, I think that's the first question is just, why come to the LA Galaxy? Certainly, as Eric and I were pondering your resume or your CV before we started, we're like, you've touched a lot of brands. You've had your fingers in a lot of stuff, most recently with the Washington Commanders. We'll talk about that rebrand maybe a little bit, but why come to MLS? Why LA Galaxy?
Well, I guess first off, you can probably hear by my accent that I'm British. So this football is my most passionate sport. NFL is my second favorite football, I guess. So, that was an easy decision. And obviously I grew up playing soccer and followed Galaxy from a very young age. So I've been a huge fan. So when this opportunity came up, I couldn't resist or say no. I guess that's first. Secondly, I loved the direction the brand, at least what the brand stood for, and the fact that it's such a historic club, the most storied franchise. I was like, wow, we can do so much with this. And again, having so much experience and knowledge of soccer kind of felt like an easy, a natural next step, I guess, for me. And the third was traveling. Well, I live in LA and I have done for the last few years, and with my wife here, and traveling to DC once a week on a plane was actually beginning to kill me. So, and I think I actually would have got a divorce as well. My wife would have left me because I was getting on a plane on Mondays and coming back Fridays. So yeah, that was another factor into it. Was a bit of a life move at the end of that.
I understand that. As somebody who's done a podcast every 2 times a week for 15 years, I understand the sort of the pressure on the home thing, and that makes a lot of sense. So I'm right there with you. You said, sort of looking at the brand with the LA Galaxy, and such a worldwide brand, and obviously fans of the LA Galaxy and us here, we understand just how wide that net gets cast whenever you talk about guys like, David Beckham and Zlatan Ibrahimovic, all the big names that sort of cast this very wide net, and wider probably than any other MLS team, maybe outside of Miami now with everything they're touching with Messi. But what was your sort of outside perspective from that, seeing how far the Galaxy's brand goes?
Good question. Yeah, I mean, I think it's got a very definitive brand. When you see that, the crest, you know it. And I think Beckham obviously helped highlight and accentuate that back in the day, and it kind of stuck with people ever since. And I think that the brand, since then, I think it's stayed strong, but I think it's just kind of, it needs a modern refresh. I think that was kind of where I started looking at this when I first started, looking at this opportunity. I was like, okay, it's had its moment, and I think it needs its moment again. And there are certainly ways we can modernize this, make it more relevant, start to diversify into culturally, socially relevant topics and experiences that will reignite the emotion with the fan base. And so to me, that was just the opportunity. I thought it was like, right, there's definitely a way we can bring this back to the forefront of everyone's minds. And given how global this is, and like I was following this team, I don't know, back when I was like 22 years old, when Beckham moved over, I think it was. And, it's got such a rich history behind it, but at the same time, you don't want to continue to lay the foundation on historicals all the time. We want to be looking to the future and mapping our own course, and sort of it's not rebranding this in any way at all. It's just redefining like what we stand for and making this brand fresh in the eyes of fans, enthusiasts, and consumers alike. So yeah, I mean, again, I think that's to me the best objective / opportunity for us is to reignite the passion through branding, through storytelling, through content, through the creative, and into a variety of different experiences cross-platform that is going to sort of bring back that passion from our fan base and generate new fans.
Yeah, just so we're clear, you're not in on the rebranding, right? Because there's been a rebrand phobia that has traveled across this wide and far base of the LA Galaxy. So you're there's no rebrand coming.
No, there's no rebranding coming. No, and to be honest, the Commanders one, I didn't even know I was going to be doing until I first, joined after a few months, and suddenly the owner was, from watching the football team, is like, yeah, you're going to be doing the rebrand. I was like, oh, all right. So no, there's no plan to, completely rebrand yet. I said, I think we're exploring. We have been sort of enhancing just the look, the feel, the tone, the voice, and listening to fans about sort of what's relevant to them. We're also looking outside into different categories just to find influence and sort of inspiration into what other brands that are doing out there, and really the opportunity here is to make sure we're not sort of following the norm and not sort of being sort of messed up into the crowd, and sort of we have to cut through that noise and sort of redefine ourselves and give ourselves an identity that is stands out from everyone else. But that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a rebrand. So we're not going to be doing that. We're just going to be finding new ways to tell our story.
Hi, Will. This is Eric Vieira. Welcome to the show. As a big follower of kind of seeing what teams and brands can do with their social media presence, I'm excited to have a chance to speak with you. So to that point, you kind of mentioned taking the fan input as piece of it. We know that the fan council was recently created for the club. What role will that play in the creative process, and how is that going to impact the brand, and what is your touch on that moving forward?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, we are really excited that we just launched it, and we just we selected the fan council members, and there's more to come on that, so stay tuned. But that was an amazing experience, and actually I did something very similar to the Commanders back in the day, and to me it was one of the most valuable outlets in order to at least bounce ideas, get input, get direction, and just sort of it's testing the waters with any sort of creative or content or storytelling we're doing. So, to me, I think that's going to be not just them. Obviously, we're going to expand it out. And I'm always fascinated by commentary from fans on every single platform, just to sort of hear what they're saying about X or Y in order for us to it helps influence our direction. But yeah, I think the fan council will be such an incredible platform, and to hear from their voices when we start to ideate or come up with any sort of experience, be it digital or physical, to get their input. It's kind of having that safe space forum to bounce ideas off and even hear new ideas, stuff that maybe we're missing from them directly will honestly be crucial for me personally and the team I'm leading, in order to help at least know the direction tonally that we're going in is the right one that people want to see. I hope that answers your question. But yeah, the fan council,
absolutely.
Be a great aspect, and not only just for the creative or the branding aspect, it's going to be invaluable to so many other components of game day experience, the parking, the ticketing experience, like everything. So I think it's going to be not to put a load of pressure on them, but obviously we'll use that valuably, but they will be a really key factor for us.
Yeah, absolutely. They're not going to do all the work for you, Will. They're not going to let you up.
No, right. No,
so the other thing Josh was kind of mentioning, with, brands that you've worked with like Coach and the Wall Street Journal and obviously the Commanders, the question might be, well, where's the soccer connection? But you kind of answered that with your accent, your UK background and your personal connection to it. But how can you leverage some of your previous experiences? How do you see that tying into what you could do with what your vision is for the LA Galaxy?
Yeah. Going to the NFL actually was probably a shock for me, I guess, because I hadn't worked in sports, but honestly, it played into my favor, and I guess it's the same coming to soccer, because when I went to the NFL, I wasn't, a lot of people I worked with, they grew up working only in American football, so that was all they knew, whereas I'm coming at it from a different perspective. And so a lot of my approach, is moving away from the traditional marketing tactics, I guess, and finding new innovative ways to cut through that noise and tell stories that resonate with people, versus creating content that people are forced to watch and creating content that people want to watch. And I'm not coming at it in terms of as well saying, oh, look, Austin do this or LAFC are doing that, so we should copy them. Having come from a variety of different brands and platform side, it's taking that knowledge, experience, and applying it to a medium that, again, it's all applicable, and sport could be very similar to a fashion brand in the sense you're trying to tell a story and market a product, and our product is either the 11 players on the field or what they're doing off the field. Again, trying to connect with people on an emotional level that could be through happy and hype or whatever it happens to be, but trying not doing what everyone else is doing effectively. So I don't know. To me, it's always been it's helped in my armory, having come from different places and started in advertising and then going brand side and then media side with Condé Nast and Wall Street Journal. You learn different tactics and traits, and you find out you're growing my experience in terms of how to market to people and tell stories in a variety of ways that really resonate. Also using data and analytics as well to help carve through that noise. So yeah, to me, it's helped, and I'm such a huge soccer fan anyway. So coming here, it helps knowing the sport so well. I'm not saying I didn't know NFL well, but and I'm also a massive Galaxy fan, so that was just an extra bonus as well on top of it.
I was going to say, does it kill you a little bit inside every time you have to say soccer? I just
Yes, it does. Mate, it does, honestly. Because Americans, if I say football, they're like, oh, American. No, it's soccer. Yeah, I've had to change that verbiage, which is annoying.
As reporters, it's funny because we had Billy Sharp when we were talking to him, and he would be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, soccer." We're like, we call it both. It's fine. We don't really care.
Yeah, we're not offended by it.
We're not invested in either, and we don't care.
Okay.
No, it was funny. One of the in the Discord that we host, we had somebody dropped a video, and it was sort of the Austin recap video, right, that you guys put out, and it was very much behind the scenes in the locker room and that type of thing. And for whatever reason, whether that has been done a whole bunch before or not, that resonated with people. That was sort of that. I think you're talking about storytelling and sort of putting it into place. You're talking about a very weird game, and having experienced it from the media side, sitting here watching and trying to communicate with you guys and finding out when the game was starting and what was going on, and then even trying to get the whole story afterwards about like getting back to your hotels and doing all that stuff, and then flying in the next day. That seemed to is that something that you've put a focus on, or did you just or is that just lucky that suddenly everybody sort of caught that one?
No, it's a focus of ours. Again, I think it goes back to that emotional connection, because if you just like put replays of broadcast clips out nonstop, you're not connecting on an emotional level about maybe what the players are going through, especially through tough times like that when they're delayed for 2.5 hours. So, that's kind of a big part of our strategy, is trying to find a much deeper connection with at least the players' mentality, the physicalities they're going through, what challenges they face, and also then how that results and pays off on the field. Really, it's like the on-field, off-field moments is really what I'm trying to start to push towards with the players specifically, because they are fascinating guys. They have great stories, and they're human just like the rest of us. And so why not try and bring that through in our storytelling in ways that stands out and again enables people to connect with them on a better or deeper level than just broadcast clips of goals and celebrating. So yeah, that's definitely one part, and we've got loads more of that we're in the process of developing now, and we'll be rolling out soon as well.
That was kind of my question that leads into that. With the Apple TV deal that came in, and a lot of the hype that you see being pushed with that guy that they signed over in Miami, are there any plans?
My previous boss about Apple TV, it's like, God, that's insane. The fact that MLS has this, I was out there, and when I was at the Commanders we're trying to sell shows to like Netflix and Hulu and all that kind of stuff, and some successful, some not, but like here, the fact we've got Apple TV as a platform for distribution is incredible. So the audience, number one. Two, yes, I have massive plans to be expanding the category content that we're going to be distributing on there, and that will be everything from the off-field stuff as well as on-field stories. So branching into the categories such as like the fashion, the cars, the food, but connecting our players through that and expanding at least our cultural relevance on that platform with the content we're putting out. So that is a focus of ours, and we are in development on a ton of this stuff already, and working with Apple about like when is the right time we can start to expand our channel with this fresh content. So yeah, there's going to be tons more of that coming through, which I'm honestly excited about, because it means I don't have to go out and try and sell to all these other networks or brands or platforms. Sneak peek, yeah, we are in the process of creating a docu-series right now, which really is a behind this. I hate to use behind the scenes, but it takes the cameras, the eyes, the viewers into the Galaxy world, really, that hasn't kind of been done before. And I'm not trying to recreate a Hard Knocks or Drive to Survive, that kind of thing. It's a different take on it in a way that's it's not sugarcoating. It's not all just like rainbows and fairies. This is the life of what it takes to not only run from a front office side MLS team, but also the heart, the passion, blood, sweat, tears that goes into the players as well, and the training and the coaches and everything else. So that's in development. I can't necessarily say too much more, but that is in, well, as I said, we're in production on that, and hopefully we'll have more news on when we'll start to roll that out. But it will be an awesome story, and it is an awesome story we're telling, and I think it's one that should be told.
Yeah, I as a fan of Drive to Survive, and that you kind of told magic to my ears for that one. Not that you want to duplicate it, but that's compelling for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. Because we watch all those programs, and if you take in inspiration from that, but then it's like, right, I don't want to replicate that and do what I don't know, Angel Cities have been doing and everything else. All or nothing. It's not trying to replicate those. We have to find a better or deeper story that is going to evoke an emotion. It is different. So we found an angle, and I think it's working. And said like we're developing it as we speak, and there will definitely be more to come in terms of when we start to roll that out.
Yeah, I think I've seen some cameras around. And by the way, if you want an idea, putting Dejan Joveljic in a race car next to Billy Sharp is not like a horrible idea. I mean, you can just go straight, for that.
Well, I wanted to film you guys tonight. I mean, I think Josh, I sent you an email and I say, hey, can we send some cameras?
That's right. Come on over.
Back, so
come on up. Yeah, I know. I was going to say, if you need any ideas for content, there happens to be this show that comes on twice a week that's a podcast. We can talk later about that. Anyway, no. Well, as always, we want to thank you for stopping by. I'm sure we can have a lot more conversations. And as we told Tom Braun, whenever he came on, we'll say to you, come on anytime you want. We want to discuss things. You want to talk to people. We're always happy to have you here. And so we'd really love to have you on whenever you are ready to do that. All right.
Would absolutely love to come back, but I don't know. Take Tom over me though; he's way smarter and he's amazing. So I think you're going to get a lot more better conversation out of it. You're
part of the triumvirate, all right. You're part of the three on the business side. I saw the press release. I saw the picture. Right, there was you and I saw it. It was all there. So.
Well, I got called a Die Hard villain. So that was I think it was. Some ways, but yes, I was the diehard villain out of the three. But yeah. Gotta love the internet, Will. So appreciate that. Thank you again for coming on. We'll talk to you real soon. All right. Thanks again.
All right. Soon. There we go. There it goes. Will Misselbrook, the chief. What is it? It's not chief operating. Chief creative and brand officer. It's chief creative officer. So he's CCO, and he's also chief brand officer. So he's CBO as well. There's a lot of acronyms back there. I mean, okay. We didn't talk about it. Seattle went through their minimalist rebrand. Now, people are going to say, don't do that with the LA Galaxy. I'd also like to point out that Seattle has changed their logo a lot over the years, right? They have not sort of really settled and cemented because it's been, it was the NASL days. It was like all these other things. They've been so many different things. I think it might even be PDL. Like they've been through 17 different leagues throughout 1978. The
irony is, yeah, well, 74, yeah. But 74. It's the irony of, it being a 1996 league and they're boasting 1974 on their crest. So it's kind of one of those things. And even with the minimalist piece, I think, the Space Needle, you could say that that's anything. That could be a graphic company. That could be a tech company. Like the Space Needle doesn't scream soccer.
It doesn't scream Seattle to you, though? I mean, really, it's a place setter, right? Seattle. It screams Seattle.
It's Seattle. This is a Seattle-based thing. So it works in that regard.
Right.
But I think there's a push for a lot of these, clubs to be brands and to be known globally. And I think sometimes, that big swing are the Seattle Sounders going to be a global brand where you don't need to have, Sounders or Seattle somewhere on there. You probably don't because you have the Space Needle there, but maybe Sounders. I feel like a word mark wouldn't kill them there in that regard.
The bottom line is I still don't know what a Sounder is. So as far as I'm concerned, you can call them whatever you want. They're the Seattle team, right?
Yeah.
So,
but he did say it. He doesn't think that a rebrand is coming in. He mentioned the crest is iconic. It's kind of speaks for itself. And it's funny as he was going on, he was kind of answering the questions that I had prepared.
Right, I know.
Already not leaning on the history, kind of moving forward. What's the next step? Not going away from the brand that's so recognizable and iconic that there's not a need to refresh it or rebrand it and how that's different. I think some people connect the dots with the Commanders rebrand that happened while he'd be coming in to do a rebrand. So I think a lot of those people who were maybe worried about that, I think that maybe settled a little bit of that anxiety down.
Certainly, but I think there's a refresh coming. I mean, I think
there is a difference though between a refresh and a rebrand.
But I mean, you could change the font on the crest, right? You could do stuff like that, and technically it wouldn't be a rebrand; it would be a refresh, right? Like Seattle did, which was very much. I mean,
it's a refresh.
Seattle did a refresh, a modern sort of refresh, and
not different colors. It's not way off from what it was. Yeah, no new name.
And if you own a house, right, you occasionally, like every 15 years or so, you have to redo the kitchen, right? You have to. You can't.
Yeah.
The kitchen's old now, right? It's been lived in. It's 15 years old style, right? All the things that were in then are not in anymore, right?
Yeah.
Sort of stuff. So it's interesting to see that. Just the big thing with the Galaxy, of course, is just the global reach of the brand, and so that's why trying to change too much of it could alienate that reach. Yeah,
you lose everything that's been created over the last, I'm not going to say 20 plus years, because really, what's recognizable is since the 07.
Yeah, it was
that's
07.
the global brand. Yeah.
I was trying to go back and I was going to say the same thing. I'm like, man, they've, relatively unchanged. Well, not really. I mean, they about halfway through, they decided to change things up whenever Beckham came in, but it was sort of iconic and sort of the way it is. Anyway, big shout out to Will. He can come on. Actually, I'll just give him your spot, Eric. I mean, he could come on and talk for the whole time.
He mentioned it. I mean, I wasn't going to address the elephant in the room, the diehard, villain piece. In terms of looks, you could do a lot worse. We're talking about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. You do a lot worse than Will Misselbrook as well. So again, if he replaced me, I get it. I understand.
You understand
the accent.
Okay.
It's fair.
Okay.
You have to know your strengths and know when to walk away.
I understand. Very good. Very good. Somebody, Steve Carrillo goes, my poor 1991 kitchen. Yeah, I know. Steve.
He's got the drapes. Steve still got the drapes up there. I know it.
He's got some shag carpeting in there from like the 80s still. Like that 78, right? 78 was the orange or the green shag carpeting. That's how it goes. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, when you look at things, and I think that Darren sort of brings this up, it's the poor performance that has lost more support than the brand. Yeah. The brand doesn't feel old, but it needs something. But also, the Galaxy should start winning, and then that will also help.
Yeah, not to quote someone who's not very popular right now, but yeah, winning fixes everything. When you're winning, the brand doesn't matter as much.
Right.
When you look at the Inter Miami brand, is the Inter Miami brand fantastic, or do they benefit from having Lionel Messi and going on that stretch of wins? That probably made more of a difference than the Inter Miami brand on itself. But to your point, what we've been saying often on this show for the last 3 or 4 years is the part that the Galaxy is getting right is the behind the scenes, the collaborations with different, DGK with the skateboards, with the Gazelles, with the Adidas and shoes and all those things. Those collaborations and the creative, the brand piece is working really well. It's just the on the field that makes it stink. And I think oftentimes people mix those two, and rightfully so. The brand is of a soccer team. So when the soccer team is not playing well, of course, that's going to impact it. But I have to tip my cap to the creative team, because I feel like, it hasn't been bad. The Galaxy have been putting out good things. Can things always be improved and move forward? Of course. But I don't think the Galaxy has been a dumpster fire in that regard. And I think as long as that just keeps moving forward, I think they'll keep me happy at least.
I'm telling you, that Austin video that they did and put out had a different feel to it, had a different vibe. And that's why I wanted to ask, because it felt different. Well, we also noticed whenever Will came in and things sort of started after Chris Klein was let go and that type of thing, you felt this little shift in some of the social media. You felt the shift in sort of some of the things that were being presented, and you go back and you listen to Will. So the storytelling part, right? The passion, the emotion, you got to dive into that. And I feel like the Galaxy have sort of been keeping that at arm's length for whatever reason. And so you see that a little bit better. But before we get too far away from anything, we were talking about iconic brands. We were talking about iconic LA Galaxy brands, and MLS decided to put out a contest about the best third kits ever. And one evening in 2011, it was
here we go. The story.
Yes.
Drink. Get ready to drink, folks.
Here we go. This story in 2011. I was invited to the top of the Grammy Museum in downtown Los Angeles. It was the summer. It was a gorgeous evening. We were out there on top of this rooftop bar, walking through Landon Donovan, Greg Berhalter. Yeah, Greg Berhalter. Actually, that was the night that Greg Berhalter told me that was probably going to be his last year and that he was going to be done. It's also the night that I got to see Mike McGee and apologize for saying that he was the worst player ever. Because up until that point, I had been doing that. Which, if you were there at that time, there was a reason. And then it was nice to be wrong about all of that and go into it, right? And so I went up to Mike and he was like, he cracked up. He thought it was great, the whole deal. But on that misty evening in the summer, the LA Galaxy laid out their 2011-2012 third kit. It is the most iconic, I think, LA Galaxy kit. Now, certainly you have the early 96, 97, 98s with the stripes and everything there. Gorgeous, gorgeous kits and the whole deal. But in terms of the modern LA Galaxy, the 2007, the rebrand, everything that sort of happened with David Beckham coming in, this was the kit. And if you have this kit in your closet, somebody asked me if I have one. I said, I have two. I have two sitting there. Now, it's hard to find authentics because they didn't make any authentics. Usually they're like player issue if you have them, right? That type of thing. But if you have it, it is the black and gold, right? And technically it wasn't black. It was blue. Yeah, it was Punjab blue, which was the actual name of the color, right? So a dark blue in this. And so they put it up and it had to go against Kansas City's rainbow kit. And I was like, please don't. That's child's play compared to what the LA Galaxy pulled off in this. And as is always, almost 200,000 people saw the tweet, a little over 8,100 total votes. But Galaxy fans got their say in there once again in the LA Galaxy's 2011, 2012, sort of the blue and gold, or the dark blue and gold kit came out of this and was the winner. So the LA Galaxy got to drop the mic a little bit. Eric, good thoughts about this kit? I mean, this is still...
Yeah, it's an iconic LA Galaxy kit. It's one of the greatest of all time. It's just when you kind of hit the nail on the head when the rebrand happened with David Beckham and kind of that initial refresh or whatever you want to call it. That became the Galaxy became a global icon. With this kit, this felt like the Hollywood, LA, the glitz, the glamour. It had those pieces, and I think the Galaxy, because their colors are blue, white, and gold, they're calling this Punjab blue, but for all intents and purposes, it's a black kit.
Right.
And the part that's spoiled, and we'll address the elephant in the room, is that this kit, when you wear it around now, if you have to do a double take, you're like, wait, is this person wearing a black and gold jersey to a LA Galaxy game? And you kind of have to do a double take and make sure that it's the right crest on that jersey. And so that's the one bummer about this kit, is it probably can't be beloved as much because of the colors. But when you look at it, it's a beautiful kit. The way it's designed, the player issue around that time, the Adidas was doing this thing where they had like the muscle shirt style jerseys. So I think you're almost better off if you have the replica, for the average Joe who's walking around to wear this jersey around. And it's just, what else can I say? It's a great looking kit. I am going to zag slightly in that another online poll, and of course the LA Galaxy and their fan base come through, and that's the LA Galaxy coming on top.
Win again. It's just LA Galaxy.
Yeah, it's what we do. But I will say, if you take away, it's just a Punjab. It's a dark blue shirt with gold stripes. So there's not a lot going on with it. So what it has is the simplicity, and the Herbalife logo in this case, in this version, doesn't distract too much from the jersey. But if I had my pick, there are other jerseys that I think are more creative, more interesting. And so if the Galaxy didn't win this contest, I wouldn't have been that heartbroken or that upset, because the shirt itself, it's pretty plain, it's pretty simple. But when you see it in person, you get it. Like there's this one, the pictures really don't do justice to it. When you see it in person is where you see, okay, this jersey is stylish. It makes you say, wow, it's impressive. As a jersey aficionado, I'm happy to see that the Galaxy came up on top. And I think, I wouldn't have been upset if another kit won. I think it's a deserving winner. I think it's hard to argue against it when you see, especially the other options. I like the Revolution kit, but it's apples and oranges when you're comparing them.
Well, I mean, it's very,
side by side.
It's very like, that Revolution is very like sort of pre MLS 2.0, right? Yeah,
it's the fun part of those 90s kits.
Right. And the rest of them are sort of just like, these are good kits. By the way, was that New York City who had that green kit? Get that out of here. Is that
how did that make the top four? Again, maybe just because they're in New York, but that is not a good looking kit.
Also, shout out, Chris Burchill makes an appearance on the graphic. Chris Burchill, they pulled out of
Trinidad and Tobago International.
Chris Burchill, and then David Beckham had a little tiny picture, but big picture for Chris Burchill whenever he came in. So but then not to just let this sort of sit there. as a win. One prominent LA Galaxy employee decided to just drop the hammer a little bit longer. We go to a tweet from Mr. Joe Totino that came out today. He goes, "This kit was so good, it became someone's identity," right? Just a little remember where you've been, folks. Remember where you're going, remember where you've been. Don't forget your history, because when you forget your history, you look like a moron. So there's a lot of morons up the road sometimes that forget that there was a league before. Oh yeah, I'm trying to be nice. That forgot there was a whole league out of this, and that born out of this kit really was the colorway for LAFC. I mean, it's the same shirt in so many ways.
Listen to what I just said. It's the glitz, it's the glamour, it's Hollywood, it's LA.
It is.
I think when you talk about brands, what they were trying to capture down the road was that. And so it's not a shock that they went in. And I didn't want to spoil. I figured we had that tweet lined up, so I didn't want to spoil. But yeah, basically it spurned the identity of another club, which is, it is what it is.
Sorry, it's just there. It's there. I mean, there's pictures of it. I was there when it got released.
There's proof.
There's proof.
It's like, look, I see the globe right there.
Let's see. Other fun things that happened on the rooftop. They had a fashion show on the rooftop with the players walking on a stage on top of the Grammy Museum. So they did that to sort of show off the kits. Afterwards, they were all standing around and they were talking, like you were just out, and so you could just go stand and talk and mingle with people. This is like early LA Galaxy days where like season ticket members would be invited to these things, and it was just. You just mingled with all the players. It wasn't a big deal.
Remember when a jersey launch was a fun time?
Yeah. Hey, man, good times, right?
I think this year maybe they can take some notes from that particular event.
Tough to be in that corner that they were in, right? I think we said that whenever we did it.
It was a tough cut. I recognize that. I'm making light of it. Yeah.
But it was bad. Right, so that type of thing. Let's see. I told you Greg Berhalter. Landon Donovan saddled up to the bar. I walked up. He was talking to one of my friends whenever I came up, and so I said hi real quick, and we were joking. Hey, can we buy you a drink? Drinks for free. We're like, hey, can we buy you a drink? And he goes, no, I only drink water. He goes, whenever you're at a public event, and like somebody like me who's a soccer player, I can only drink water, because if I drink anything else, right, somebody will say, if I have a bad game, over the weekend, they're going to say it's because he was. I saw him drinking at the bar.
Yeah, he's not taking care of his body.
He's not taking care of his body, and
it's simple.
How many people in the chat room in the Discord did that just trigger? Because that's all we ever see, right? They're all like, "Oh, wait a minute, I wouldn't have done." Yes, you would have. You would have done that 100%. So that's it. I'm trying to think. I think those were the major sort of takeaways from all of that. Right? Was Greg Berhalter telling me he was going to retire, that it was his last season, and then it was Landon Donovan drinking water at the bar. Yeah, it was. And
Mike McGee, getting a kick out of it, but. You got to remember, at the time, Mike McGee was not Mike McGee. He was starting to become Mike McGee.
Like the Mr. November, the Mr. November part of that, like just hadn't kicked in yet, right? Or Mr. October is Mr. November, because everything was later then. That's good. Some super chats because we had him. Scott, $5 super chat. Scott, hope you're doing well. By the way, before we get to yours, he gives everybody a public service announcement. And I like this because you know what? We need to be reminded, guys. Go get checkups every year and listen to your body. Scott battling with cancer, we know that. So Scott, keep it up, buddy. We know you're hanging in there, and we appreciate, as always, your support. And if we're here for entertainment, then hopefully we can help you get through that a little bit. Eric
appreciate you, Scott. Keep fighting.
Eric gave us a $5 super chat, but not you. It was a different Eric with a K. I don't know if you want to fight him later, but that's fine.
You know what? If you go to the super chat, with a K is the correct spelling. That's how you do it.
Yep. He goes, Eric goes, remember, Golden State used to really suck. Then they're number one, right? Like, again, this is cycles up and down, up and down, round and round, like a carousel,
And to that point, Golden State had this, Golden Gate Bridge logo that was buried for a while. And then it comes back, and all of a sudden, what a great looking jersey! And it's like, is it a great looking jersey, or is it because they're winning all these games and they use the same logo back from the 70s? So great point by Eric there.
Another $2 super chat from Eric in there as well. I think Eric forgot to type his second question in there, but
in true Eric fashion, but still, at the very end.
I like it very much. All right, let's get to the standings a little bit and talk just again, because we were sort of we were talking about it before, but where did the LA, I mean, it's crazy to think that we're still talking about the playoffs. The Galaxy are in 13th place. We talked about how there's only 3 spots up for grab in the Eastern Conference, but yet basically 8 spots up for grab in the Western Conference. Not really, because you know that LAFC, Seattle, Houston, those guys are probably going to lock stuff in, especially Houston with the way they're playing. Quite honestly, Portland is well on their way to locking something in, especially with 4 wins in a row. So Portland is sort of in that as well. But where are the opportunities? I think Dallas is borderline. I think San Jose is borderline. I think Vancouver could still be borderline just in terms, although they play well enough. The bottom line is, like we've been saying all season, Eric, there is a logjam here. It's mediocrity, and it's not going to settle itself out until these teams run out of games. That's going to be what settles all this out.
And we're getting close to running out of games. Look at games played, 31 for some of these teams. There's only 3 more games for those particular clubs. At the beginning of the season, I think with the addition of St. Louis, I didn't quite know how to measure this, because then when Nashville was in their conference and then they moved out of the conference, it's always tough to judge where the points are going to land. So we were talking and we were saying 42, 43, but you look at where Houston is sitting in 4th place with 43 points with 4 games to go. It almost feels like teams overperformed this season. There wasn't, one team that was just kind of taking all the punishment. That team was Colorado, but there's not like 2 teams on the bottom where you can kind of level it out. It seems like everyone's, kind of taking points from each other, and the teams, that are in that range are outperforming, themselves. So it doesn't seem like 42 or 43 is going to be enough, especially when you look in that San Jose, Dallas, Kansas City range. It looks like it might need to be 45. That seems to be like it's going to be the magic number. So when you look at the Galaxy on 34 points, can they get, 3 wins out of their last 5 to get those 12 points and then get help on top of it? Because they play Portland, they play Minnesota, and they play Real Salt Lake. So that's going to be the difference maker, where you're able to make up those 6-point differences. So I think they're going to need, 11 or 12 points if they're going to make the playoffs. I think 45 is going to be the new magic number.
Well, and depending on what happens this weekend, Galaxy could win and they move nowhere. You're sort of in that zone as well. You do need the help. I still think that, by the way, you win the next 5 games and you make the playoffs. Like, that to me is like duh, right? That's still,
well, of course, yeah. Greg Vanney, that's what he's known for, these 5-game winning streaks.
Yeah, we didn't ask for 3, right? Just tell them we're skipping 3. We're just going straight to 5, right? That's the problem. We've been saying you get a 3-game winning streak, and he says, no, guys, I'm gonna get a 5-game winning streak, and then we could just forget about the 3-game. That's how that works, right? I asked people in the LA Galaxy front office if they just go up to tell. This is kind of like, sometimes you just need to give permission for people to do things. Like, they don't realize that mentally it's holding them back. I go, somebody should just walk up to Greg and go, I give you permission to win 3 games in a row. Just go ahead.
Just put it in the universe. I like it. Yeah.
Just put it out there, right? That type of thing. So that's where the Galaxy sits, sort of in that range. You look at the LA Galaxy's schedule coming up, and that's interesting as well. If I can just figure out where I put that schedule graphic. One of those graphics is definitely the schedule, but one of them is not the schedule. And you just have to find
Wait for it.
Eric, it's like I deleted it. Sometimes I think...
Would you like me to read the schedule?
You can.
Because I don't have it.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I said I don't have it.
Oh, you don't have it. Okay.
I usually put it in my notes, and I'm looking through, and I'm like, no, that is not in my notes. So good times.
Did they delete it from both of our computers at the same time? I don't.
It must be one of those things. If only we had an internet connection. But let's go back to Apple TV while we vamp and kind of figure this out. You mentioned the prepping and how this Austin video, if you haven't checked it out, make sure you go check out the Austin video. But leading up to this, the prepping for the previous or the upcoming game, it was usually Kobe Jones or Joe Totino sitting down with a player, like a one-on-one interview, which is fine. But with a 34-game season, that kind of got old and repetitive. So this was a breath of fresh air to kind of see, there's some narrative, there's some storytelling with what's going on, what's happening on Apple TV. So if you haven't checked it out, I think I filibustered for enough time. Do you have the schedule? Because if not, I have it.
Yeah, I have it. I'm trying to. I'm actually trying to put it up on the screen as well. So go ahead. You can start, and I will. I will pop it up on the screen, I think.
So they have Portland obviously coming up this weekend, and then they're going to go away to Seattle at Lumen Field. Then they're going to go away to Allianz Field, a midweek game at Minnesota, and then they'll finish with a 2-game home stretch against Real Salt Lake. And then, again, decision day against Dallas. Decision day versus a Texas team. What can possibly go wrong? So that's the part that makes me nervous. But going back to my point about Austin being an opportunity to pick up points on the road, I think either that Seattle or that Minnesota game, they need to get 3 points on one of those. and that could be the huge difference maker. I think Minnesota, you don't want to look past Seattle, but if you can somehow kind of save your energy or do what you need to do, because Minnesota is in the way, they need to leapfrog them. I think that's the one that you maybe want to circle, with red pin and see this is the game that we're going to be able to make up the difference, because then you're at home for those last two and you just need to handle your business. And I think that this Galaxy team is capable of doing it. They haven't shown that they could do it, but they are capable of doing it. It wouldn't shock me, if they're able to handle those last two games at home comfortably.
Do you want to hear about Riqui Puig from Greg Vanney today? Because that's sort of on everybody's mind, right?
I was going to say, I've only been checking his Instagram updates, and based on that, it's not looking pretty. So I'd love to hear an alternative take.
He'll never walk again, according to his Instagram updates. I told everybody, chill out. Like, I know Mike Gray was on there, and he was going, oh man, it looks really bad. Look, he's got his ankle wrapped. I'm like, this is all called treatment. You guys are getting like the first. We wait for players almost every game, especially at this time of year, because they're getting treatment, right? Yeah. Like they're like, hey, we got to go. These guys are all injured. They're all beat up. They've had a lot of games this year. They are tired. The schedule is condensed. They played in Leagues Cup as well. They had the U.S. Open Cup games. All this stuff is starting to lead. And then with the Galaxy and their season-ending injuries, the bench has gotten a little shorter, right? So all these guys are out there battling their butts off, trying to stay healthy. I mean, the good news is they got like Billy Sharp, who came in off a preseason, who doesn't have, any pre-existing injuries coming in. He can get banged up. And then, of course, he runs into a pole his first play.
His opening. That's going to be his moment of legends for sure.
Do you remember,
that's a great way to introduce yourself.
Do you remember the Angels signed Mo Vaughn? And then, like, the first game, this was a big deal for a big first baseman, Mo Vaughn. Wow, the Angels are really going after it. And in the first game, he went to catch a foul ball and fell down the dugout steps and, hurt himself. Like, that sort of, that's what Billy Sharp was whenever he ran to the pole. I'm like, no, he's going to Mo Vaughn himself. No, he's been fine. By the way, super chat some more. Gary, $2 super chat. Thanks for the pod, guys. We greatly appreciate it. Philip has going on $5 super chat. We could win 6 out of the next 5 games and still be in 13th place. Correct.
Philip, I appreciate the super chat, but the math is not working out for me, my friend.
Last was optimism. Hello, gents. I think LA Galaxy can survive 2 more draws and win 3. Cross fingers for Puig and Doug. Yeah, a return of Doug needs to happen here as well. Yeah. And then Darren gave us a $10 super chat. Thank you for that, Darren. As frustrating as the last X years, how many years has it been, right? You
put 2 X's. I don't know that it's been a decade, but maybe it has. You could say 10 years.
It feels too long. I still look forward to COG twice a week. Thanks for the work you do. I'm sure it's not easy as you make it look. Oh no, super easy. I just roll up here in my PJs and get it done.
Didn't you see that excellent work that we did to get the schedule pulled up?
Oh, hey, guess what? I found the schedule. There it is.
There it is. It was there the whole time.
There the whole time when I found it. It was just hidden over on the right.
Calls coming from inside the house
the whole time. Let's hear from Greg Vanney on Riqui Puig. Here you go. Hold on. Give me a second. Let me turn the volume up. There we go.
Positive news.
Let's try to get. See?
See an ankle sprain. It's the positive news. It's not a high ankle sprain. It's just kind of day to day. So we're today managing him inside. He's doing a lot of work to try to get the swelling down. He's doing some work on some of our modified training tools to try to again just get the swelling out. Doesn't have a lot of pain, so tomorrow he'll be on the field, and we'll see how far along he is and how ready he might be for the weekend. So we remain optimistic to see where we're at. So, but it's planned today that he wouldn't be out in training and that he's doing his work inside.
All right, there you go. So Riqui Puig, planned train. It's so not a high ankle sprain. I'm sorry. There's always cars and trucks in the back of the LA Galaxy every single time. I know. So Riqui Puig, not a high ankle sprain. That's the positive news. They're just trying to get the swelling down. Greg Vanney says there's not a lot of pain with it right now, which is, again, good news. Because this feels like it's something that's going to be pain management more than anything, right? Because basically you already sprained the ankle. It is an ankle sprain, right? And it was because of the tackle that happened and everything else that's sort of been going on. He's already been playing injured with sort of the groin injury as well, right? So he had all this other stuff that was sort of in there. So now you sort of get him into the spot where if he shows up and he performs, then he shows up and he performs. I'll tell you, and Greg says it later on. He goes, did you think about taking him out during the game last time? And he goes, I thought about taking him out like every 5 minutes, right? Like the whole deal. And like
did everyone else,
right?
By the way, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and he goes, I went through a lot of emotions trying to figure out when he needed to come out, when he didn't need to come out, whether he was still affecting things, if he was affecting things positively or negatively, the whole deal. And so eventually he did get pulled out, and he tried to give, Greg goes, I really wanted to give him about 10 minutes with, the two forwards to see if we could unlock something. That didn't happen. We pulled him out, and then Johnny Perez. Everybody sort of says you should have put Johnny Perez in earlier. I'm telling you that the timing on that probably worked just perfect.
Yeah.
And
I'm proud of how Johnny Perez performed, but let's not act like it's a 1-for-1 swap. I will say it was a heroic performance from Puig. From when he got stepped on, I thought he was done. I thought he was going to come off the field, but when he was limping around, but just the fact that he was able to play through it, to play through the pain, kind of figure it out, that showed that he's already played on the injury. Obviously, you can. I was going to say it's not going to get more sprain, but it can get more sprain. You can make it a high ankle sprain. Right. It can turn around and make it worse. But he seemed to manage the pain and didn't want to come out. Signaled to Vanny that he didn't want to come out. So he seems like he's going to be, a tough player. And I think when you look at the playoff run and what they need, especially with results at home, they need Riqui Puig. And so if you have to tape that thing until it basically becomes a hard cast, and whatever the athletic team has to do, go, like you said, off air we were saying varsity blues, whatever cortisone shots or you have, right, to numb the pain and make it all go away so he can get through those 90 minutes. I think you have to deal with it, and he's probably game for that. He probably wants to play. And I don't think the quality of play suffered a little bit, right, but it wasn't worth subbing him off. I think you still need him. If the Galaxy want to succeed, they need Riqui Puig on the field. So I like what Lasso's optimism put. He said half of Riqui is better than most of MLS. So I'd co-sign. The Galaxy on half of Riqui is still a good time.
Half of Riqui sounds
that sounds like
it's not a
drug.
It's not a good thing.
I don't like it.
Yeah, you shouldn't have.
Made me uncomfortable.
Wendell, don't stick that needle in your knee. What is that's? I think his name was Wendell, right? Wasn't the guy from Varsity Blues? He's sitting there and they're getting ready to stick the needle in his knee. Wendell, don't stick. It's something else because it was a black guy, and a black guy would never be named Wendell, right? They can't.
It does take place in Texas, my friend.
Okay, all right, true enough. So, just say no. Just say no. I like that. That's good. All right. No. So there's that. Now there's the update on Douglas Costa as well. Douglas Costa, Greg Vanny said, trained fully yesterday, trained fully today. He will be a part of the action on Saturday. That doesn't mean he starts. But I'm also thinking that Greg's hiding that a little bit. If you fully train and everything's fine and you don't have any issues, I wouldn't be surprised if Douglas Costa starts in this game against Portland. And that would be a nice thing to be a surprise, right? Like you'd be like, oh, surprise, that type of thing. It's like whenever Douglas Costa was on the bench for LAFC, that was that game where you were sort of like, is he going to play? And you knew that Trundle was also thinking, is he going to play? And how am I going to counter that whenever he comes in? And I need to make subs that make sure I'm accounting for him coming in. And then they never played him. He was a decoy on that one.
That's the one thing. Talk about players that were missed, in this last stretch of games, in particular that LAFC game. They need Doug. They need Doug back out there the way he was contributing. And he's going to get a little bit of hate because you see how Riqui played through the injury, and because his is a shoulder injury and not a foot injury, you would think he'd be able to play through it. But you got to think the running that's involved and, the type of injuries he's had, it's not a 1-for-1 that you can compare the thing. But I think Doug is in the situation where we need to do what we need to do to get him on the field. And if he's able to participate in training, then you need him at least at home to be available. And then if he needs to take the rest and, not make the road trip or limit his minutes on turf when you go away to Seattle, then maybe that's where you kind of split the difference. But I think if there's a time to push it, this is going to be the weekend for Douglas to push it and to get out there, because they need his contributions out on the field for sure.
There's zero chance this team wins a playoff game if it makes in the playoffs. They're going to be dead by the time they get there.
Let us not forget that the first series is there's a wild card to get in.
Right. Yeah.
And then the first series is a 3-game series.
Yep.
So just making the playoffs is going to be a success if we get there. With all of the injuries that have happened, you can argue, and I heard some other people kind of having this conversation, just the fight that they've shown here towards the end and the turnaround since Klein out should be applauded. Obviously, with the standards that the Galaxy have, you don't want to, just barely missing the playoffs. Hey, what a great season. But when you take all the things into consideration, the fight that they put on, I think you can tip your cap, still be disappointed with it, but say this was a good fight towards the end. But I'm not under the delusion that the Galaxy are going to win MLS Cup. You could say, well, you just go on a run towards the end, peak at the right. I'm Mr. Peak at the right time. This team is not good. We're seeing it peak right now at its peak performance, and the wheels are falling off. What do we hear? The bobsled. Cool runnings.
Yep.
Yeah. The screws have popped out. We're just going to carry this thing across the finish line and get the round of applause for just finishing the race.
Participation trophy, right? That's where you're
at this point. Yeah.
At this point, it feels that way. Certainly in that. Now, also Chris Mavinga, groin injury or growing injury, according to Greg Vanny, but a groin injury. And so I imagine he's going to be out. So I think you can count him out. It's still interesting to see Zavaleta, Tony Alfaro, that type of sort of thing happen and where that's all going. I'll tell you this, when you're a professional athlete, and I've talked to professional athletes for 15-something years, talking about readiness and getting ready to play and what you have to do, most of those guys, the guys who stay healthy, the guys who are really the guys who count on themselves to be ready game in, game out, take a tremendous amount of pride of making sure their body is ready, right? It's not up to the trainers. It's not up to the other people. It is up to how I treat my body, how I recover, how I eat, how I train, and how I do everything that's good for my body. The most recent person of that is Sasha Kljestan, who came out and very rarely had injuries throughout his career, right? So that's a guy who prided himself on always being ready and always ready to go. So that's sort of, I think that's the injury list right now where it stands. So you can sort of start to take your ideas of what that Portland game is going to be. Yes.
That injury list on top of Chicharito and Caceres and
Brugman,
and Neal and Brugman.
Neal,
On top of everything.
Caligari.
Yeah.
Yep. By the way,
we had a whole roster of injuries.
You do. You can almost have a starting 11 of in-season ending injuries. I saw some video of Julian Araujo. Did you see the video?
Locking down Vinny Jr., yeah.
What? Okay, so I was having this conversation. I want to talk about
Where's
this.
Where's your Caligari take now, Josh?
No. The crazy thing is, and somebody on Twitter said this too, it's like, if you just watched him now, you would think that he's a better defender than he is an offensive player. And it's like, he's growing. He's doing it, right? Like, you send Jules out into the world and he goes around, he makes some new friends, and he is starting to develop that quiet defensive feat, just you saw Vinny, he was jumping all over the place, and Julian's like, I'm just gonna chill out. I'm right in front of you. I have the position. You're not going anywhere. I'm not gonna overreact. I'm not gonna dive in. I'm just gonna make you make mistakes. And that's what he did the whole night. And apparently people are really taking notice. Like Barcelona fans are starting to be like, when's he coming back?
Where's this guy come? Mexican national team people are happy about it. And this is why players want to go to Europe, especially at a young age, because testing yourself against Vinny Jr. is different than testing yourself every day against Kevin Cabral in training. It's a different level of quality. So it's not surprising that your defense is going to improve when you're going up against, La Liga level wingers.
Right.
Of course, it's a natural progression. You don't want to say of course, because, there are players who can't live up to it. But as someone who's a huge supporter of Julian and what he brought to the Galaxy and kind of seeing his story and knowing his background, to see him even get an inkling of success, you fist pump and you get excited because you really, the sky's the limit for a player like that. And so I wish him the best, and it warmed my heart to see him, on the big stage getting a lot of shine on social media for his performance.
It was good. So Julian Araujo doing good things for the LA Galaxy as a former alumni there, sort of taking off a little bit. We'll see how far that star rises there. All right, let's talk about it. LA Galaxy coming up against Portland Timbers on Saturday, September 30th, 7:30 p.m. and your kickoff time is 7:39 p.m. So TV start time 7:30 p.m. Kickoff 7:39. 9-minute lead-in. Apple TV MLS Season Pass. That one's behind the paywall. Too sad, so bad. Whatever. Oh, bad, too sad, too bad, too bad, so sad.
Not it either,
yeah, that was it. I'll get there eventually. Don't worry. I have a 3.5-year-old who constantly is messing up sayings now, and I'm not sure what they are anymore. So,
and they speak a different language. Yeah,
they do.
I totally hear you. Yeah,
they do. Anyway, so LA Galaxy overall against Portland Timbers 14-8 and 14-13-8, as we say it. 8 draws in the middle, 13 losses. So the LA Galaxy, though, just in the past 3 games, undefeated against Portland, right? So you look a little bit earlier in 2023, the 0-0 draw up in Portland, right? So a big game considering where the LA Galaxy were at during that time. They actually got a draw there. So those were big road points sort of to come up off. We look for the referees. It's going to be Joe Dickerson in there, which is, you don't hear a lot about Joe Dickerson, and that's probably a good thing. So
that was my thing looking at it, who's available. None of those names jump out, which is a good thing. But I did look at the ref stats on that. Joe Dickerson calls the second most fouls per game in MLS. So he is going to be calling a lot of fouls.
That's good.
A 5.06 yellow cards per game. So expect a physical game. But I think this plays in the Galaxy's favor, because when we talk about how they like to play with possession, Portland plays on the counterattack, and they're dangerous on the counter. So if we have a referee who's calling a lot of fouls, I think this plays in the Galaxy's favor.
Very interesting game coming up with Portland. The Galaxy are unbeaten in 5 straight meetings with Portland. Win 3, draw 2 in all competitions for the second time. Win 2, draw 3 from May 2014 to June 2015. Neither team has ever gone 6 straight matches against the other without a loss. There you go. There's your roulette. There's the ones. 35 meetings.
This is the one.
Yep, 35 meetings in all competitions total. The Galaxy have avoided defeat in consecutive matches despite being behind by 2 goals in each game. Win 1, draw 1, including coming from 3-1 down in the 89th minute to draw 3-3 against Austin. It was a really late comeback, but there was also 9 minutes of stoppage time in that game, so it feels like there was still a lot left in that game. 3-3 against Austin. LA has collected an MLS high 5 points in matches in which it's trailed by multiple goals this season. Win 1, draw 2, lose 10. Still not great. I wouldn't suggest it. Don't go out and try it.
They try to sell it like that was a good thing, but then when you see that stat at the end, it kind of spoils it.
The Timbers have won 4 straight matches, scoring multiple goals in all 4 wins, the longest streak of its kind in the club's MLS history. Portland has collected an MLS high 16 points since Miles Joseph took over as interim manager in late August. So they've got that new manager juice going for them.
Mm-hmm. We've been talking about stats and going around the Galaxy since Klein out and since July and all these things. The Timbers, I think you can carve the narrative how you want, but I think that says it right there. 16 points since firing their coach. Giovanni Savarese, you thought, Portland institution, that if anyone's going to be safe, someone like him, but to see the difference, that he's gone, they've started cooking. It's kind of interesting. I think Portland right now is one of the hottest teams in the league, unfortunately, when the Galaxy are kind of limping into this game, quite literally.
Dejan Joveljic came off the bench. It's funny. Dejan scores a goal, and all of a sudden we get Dejan stats again. Dejan Joveljic came off the bench to score for the Galaxy against Austin, his 10th league goal as a substitute since the start of the last season. 3 more than any other player in that time. The 10 goals as a substitute equals Alan Gordon for the most in Galaxy MLS history. Alan Gordon, that's good company to be around. Gordo, you gotta love that.
That's surprising to me, because when you think of sub goals, you think of Alan Gordon. 10 feels like a low number for him, and maybe it's just 10 for the LA Galaxy, and that's why it feels that way, because he did make his way to quite a number of clubs around MLS. But again, like you said, good company. When you talk about super subs for the LA Galaxy, I think there's one name to pops to mind for a lot of people, and it's Alan Gordon. So just the fact that he's in there in his short amount of time with the Galaxy is impressive. So shout out to Dejan there.
A little Portland trivia that turns into LA Galaxy trivia. Anthony scored his first career MLS goal in Portland's 3-2 win over Colorado on Saturday, the 17th different Timbers player to score a goal this regular season, tied with LA Galaxy, Inter Miami, and Atlanta United for the most different scorers in MLS in 2023. So that's interesting. There's 17 LA Galaxy players who have scored goals as well.
Well, we know our strikers aren't scoring.
Yeah, well, they're starting to. Can't say it anymore. They're starting to. Billy Sharp is coming alive. No, it's interesting because you look at Portland. They won 4 in a row, and I think there's a tendency certainly to look at 4 in a row and say, man, they've really been playing lights out. Having said that, you look at a 3-2 game against Colorado in Portland, right? And you then are sort of, if you're just focusing in on that game, you're like, well, I mean, Colorado stretched them to sort of the brink. Yeah. What can the LA Galaxy do at home? But then you go look at the stats for that game, and Colorado scored 2 little tiny small XG goals, and Portland absolutely crushed them on possession, on passing, on shots, on all the stuff. So it really was more of a lopsided game than the score probably says. So that, again, it puts you sort of back in the Portland is, as you said, the hottest team in Major League Soccer right now. It's the team you don't want to play. I think the fact the Galaxy have them at home is the only sort of saving grace.
That's the kicker
for any of this stuff. And as you look, and again, sort of slanted, because even Greg Vanney was talking about how Portland is such a different team under the current coach, right? That they're more aggressive. He goes, and they've always had quality. And he goes, quite honestly, the back four don't really give up that many chances. And again, you would say, well, they just gave up 2 goals to Colorado. Go look at those goals. Go look at the XG. Those are not high probability goals. So there's some luck involved in that too. But on possession wise, Galaxy have 56 during the season, 45 to Portland. The Galaxy have more shots. The Galaxy usually get more shots on goal. The Galaxy usually have more shots blocked, and then total passes is like through the roof. But again, Portland playing a little bit different, very aggressive though. Their defense stays back. Yeah. Their defense does stay back, but their up-and-comers, their front guys, are really causing a lot of problems, really scoring a lot of goals. So I'm sort of starting to see this. You have more uptime, Asprilla, of course, Moreno. Anthony was the one who scored his first goal. Costa in there. It's funny because you go and look at the back line, and you're sort of like, okay, where's the big name, right?
Where's the beef?
Where are they getting all this from?
They also have a David Bingham in there, so that makes you feel a little bit better. The one player that's not in that lineup versus Colorado was Evander. Evander is someone who's been their leading scorer and totally on fire for them. So that's another name you're going to look out for.
And Blanco's not in there. He's on the subs list. So Sebastian Blanco, they're number 10, sort of putting in there. So again, this is a good Portland team the way they're playing right now. Really tall task for the LA Galaxy. I just sort of wanted to see very, very balanced against Colorado in terms of where the passes were coming and how they're sort of spreading it out. Looking at possession against Colorado, all Portland at home. I think that switches a little whenever you come play the LA Galaxy at home. So that maybe is a little bit better for some things there. And then I told you about the XG. There you go. 0.4 to 2.3. Like I said, it was kind of a massacre in expected goals. But that's sort of where it sits. Eric, do you have what Vegas is saying? Do we have our ratings? All right,
I have our dratings.com. They're the Galaxy being home, even as hot as Portland is, they're giving the Galaxy, the edge. The Galaxy with a 51.6% chance to win, 24.1% chance for Portland to win, and then a 24.2% chance for a draw. Kind of interesting with the Vegas odds. The lines opened with Portland as the favorite, but now if you go to where to bet on it now, it'd be Portland plus 250 and the Galaxy minus 105. So the Galaxy have kind of flipped to being favorites. A lot of the action kind of going in that direction.
I'd bet on Portland on that one. Plus 250. Or
bet for a draw.
Yeah. Oh, for the draw? The draw sounds
plus 280 if
plus
you're going for the draw there.
That's not a horrible
and then
count.
They also have the over-under set at 3 goals. And I think if you've watched these last few games with the Galaxy, them being goal fests and coming from behind and kind of needing the desperation, needing to kick it into extra gear, I think I'd go over 3 goals if you were betting on that to try to make some money there.
I mean, let's get to this. Lasso's Optimism, $2 super chat. Do you try to deal a day on Joveljic next year? I don't know. That's a good question.
I think you see how next year goes. I think he's earned for what he's contributed. Give him another shot to see how it goes. He needs a get right season, but I think if you see how it goes and it's not working out, you could see them summer. Maybe in the summer making something work out for him. But I think you need to give him one more fair look, which I think that's what we're going to be seeing with Greg Vanney as well. I think if Vanney gets off to a slow start, I think his leash has come to an end, especially with Robbie Keane. You see Robbie Keane's record over with Tel Aviv. It's undefeated. So I think he's going to be on the hot seat.
That's still though. I still feel the LA Galaxy are not going to go to Robbie Keane coming from Tel Aviv and be like, you're our next LA Galaxy coach. I don't see that. I'm telling you, there's something different anyway.
We have big news. It's not a super chat, but it might as well.
I mean, super chat. He should pay to be on this show, right? That's next time. Next time we'll charge him. That's how it goes. Go ahead. You can read it.
Yeah, Will Misselbrook in the chat. Thank you, Josh and Eric, for having me on the show. Real honor to chat. A massive thanks to everyone who tuned in. Your support means everything to me. I'm here for you if you want to chat more. So there you go. Will Misselbrook, man of the people in the YouTube chat. Big shout out to Will.
Brave. Very brave. Very brave. All right, now let's get to this game. Must win, can't lose. just another Saturday night game, possibly played in the rain. Right now, about a 50% chance, I think, of rain throughout the entire day. I think it might be 60 on Saturday and 50 on Sunday. It's not high chances. I don't think, again, it's going to pour. Having said that, it'll probably pour now.
Yeah, it's not going to be a lightning storm like it was in Texas.
No,
it's not going to be baseball size hail, right?
Eric, I'm going to say something that I think I swore I would never say. If the LA Galaxy want to make the playoffs, and if they want to do it within, sort of the easiest ability of they have to win this game. Does a draw put them out of it? Kind of depends on what the other results are, but you don't want to play that game. The least that you want to have happen is that you win and everybody else around you wins, and you stay exactly the same number of points that you were with the with now 4 games and 6 points to make up. Right? That's the worst. That's the worst case scenario that you can afford to have. Anything else, if it goes, the problem is, you're within 2 games right now, right? We sort of, it's kind of funny, like a baseball term, but you're within 2 games. You win 2 times and somebody loses 2 times, and you can technically make up that ground. That is the most that you can hope for down a stretch of about, 5 games for the Galaxy and about 2 games. Now, there's still some games in hand that the Galaxy are going to play, especially on Dallas, right? So there's some things to play in here. But all of that is sort of prefaced on the fact that they have to win against Portland. I don't see any other way. And if they don't, I'm not going to say the season's over, but the ramp that it takes for you to get onto the on-ramp to get onto the playoffs is like, 89 degrees instead of 45 degrees, right? You're like 1 degree shy of straight up. I was
going to say the 89 degrees is a pretty steep angle there, but I'm with you. And I don't like to be the one that says it, but I'll be the guy who kind of wears it. I know Kevin on Monday mentioned, you can't say it's a must-win game because you still have game to play.
Right.
But I think at home, this is a must-win. You look at the distance between the teams right now, the Galaxy on 34 points, Portland on 42, so that's an 8-point difference. Portland wins this game. That puts, at 11-point difference and basically guarantees Portland a spot. So that's one less team that you're now battling out in the mix for. I think this is a must-win if you want to make the playoffs. Right. If you can, are there still other games to play? Yes. And then could you start playing spoiler and, playing for pride and those type of things? But I think if you want to make the playoffs, this needs to be 3 points. If the Galaxy want to come out on top, it's not a 6-point game because they don't have to leap Portland and they're too far out of range, but you're basically gifting Portland one of those spots. Right. You want to take one away from them and then make it more difficult for them, because if they stay on 42 and the Galaxy are able to win, 3 or 3 of these games and maybe a draw here or there, then they can leap Portland at the very end.
Right.
But this is the team that, they need to take them out now. This is when they face them.
Yeah. It's funny. Patrick wants to be the negative Nancy here and says the season ended 6 weeks ago. Now we're just playing for pride. Aaron, of course, said Pride Night was at least a few weeks back, maybe a few months back. So like I said, always good in the chat room. Always good in the chat room.
Nothing is over.
It is not over until the fat lady sings. Well, that means Kevin Baxter, right? Until he sings,
just like that.
Then that's how it goes. Until he sings, and quite honestly, with the LA Galaxy and the way that they're playing, listen, I can't count them out. I can't say they're dead. This team is,
they won't die. They just won't die.
They're like a spider you spray with the bug spray, and you're like, oh, I got him, and then he wiggles some more, and you spray him again.
Curls up and walks away. I've been there.
Yeah, that's the LA Galaxy right now. Patrick says playing for pride is positive. He doesn't think it is negative. No, it's they can still make the playoffs. What that looks like and how that goes is starting to be a much narrower window. I looked at this again before, and I pour out this up, but they're at 34 points. They were 6 points better last year at this same juncture, right? And they were 8 points better in 2021 and missed the playoffs at the last juncture. That's the crazy
thing. 2021, look at that graph and how that works out. That's crazy. 2021, that was heartbreak. That was really rough.
Ooh, all right, let's get predictions guaranteed to be wrong. Yes. Go.
I predicted it. That's going to be a goal fest. We've seen a lot of goal fests lately. Bet the over, more than 3 goals. I say the Galaxy win, and a must-win 3-2. 5 goals in this game.
I was going to say 3-2. That just seems like that's how it's going to be.
Because Portland's going to score. Portland's going to score, but the Galaxy has shown that fight, so you know that they're going to get their goals too.
I don't know, dude. I don't know. I
don't know, dude. That's the analysis. That's the name of the episode right there.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. It's just, this team is weird, and every time I think I figured them out, somebody gets injured, and I just wonder what you would be looking at if, you still had Brugman, you still had Caligari, maybe even Caceres in there, and
Yeah.
maybe what the summer would look like differently going after some different guys in that way too, knowing that you still had those guys sort of, set as your...
Yeah, I hate playing that game. If
hurts.
healthy,
It
win
hurts
healthy.
too much. Yeah, I know.
But when you list those names, you're telling me one of those draws couldn't have been flipped. Two of those draws could have been flipped. One of those losses could have been a draw. That's 4 or 5 points, and that's huge. That makes all the difference to where they're sitting right now. So I'm, don't want to play those games, but I agree with you, especially when you read through that list.
Yeah, it matters. All right. Again, LA Galaxy hosting the Portland Timbers coming up on Saturday, September 30th. That is a 7:30 p.m. TV time, 7:39 kickoff time. So again, 9-minute lead-in. The LA Galaxy looking to stay alive in the playoffs, at least stay pace with Dallas, who is 6 points away from that last position. Maybe move out of 13th place. You never know. It could happen. Austin loses, the Galaxy win. Suddenly they're in 12th place. Then crazy things happen. But I do believe that we should just throw a party as soon as they actually get out of 13th place, whether that's down to 14th or up to 12th. I think that something has to happen on all of that. All right.
We referenced F1 earlier. This is the time. Push. Keep pushing. This is the time to start passing people and figure it out. So hopefully, with results going their way, they can make some of these pushes.
That's where we're going. All right. I think that does it. Eric, anything else you want to get to? Oh, I do have something. Sorry.
I just want to shout out Will Misselbrook.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on. I think he was gave some great answers there.
From AFCHA, wanted to remind everybody that the AFCHA Pupusa truck with a purpose will be on the concourse this Saturday. It will be at the remainder of the games this season. So if there's a home game, the Pupusa truck is there. Steve, shout out over at AFCHA. We love you, bud, and thanks for sending me a note, making sure I said that. So I'm glad I got it in. So remember, the Pupusa truck is going to be there. All right.
Apologies if I missed it. Were they gone? Are they back? Or it's just nice that they're there.
I think they're midweek games, that type of thing. Oh, they're not going to be there for midweek games, but they're here for the rest of the time. So yeah. So everybody
shout out to AFCHA, always doing great things.
Yeah. By the way, people are asking for Tony Alfaro update. As far as I know, he's not injured. That's as far as I know. I can't tell you anything else because really we don't get a lot of that. And Farai Muntatu updaters get blocked.
I was going to say that's the fact that that's still a question is kind of incredible. Yeah.
All right. I too want to thank Will Misselbrook for coming on. That was great, Will. We appreciate it. And again, invitation's always open. So anytime you want to come on, you know where to find me. And we'll gladly have you on again. All right. Eric, tell people where they can find you, and we'll get on out of here. Let's go.
All right, for reals this time. As always, you can find me on everything at HammerEV9. That's Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and now Threads. That's at HammerEV and the number 9.
All right, if you're looking for me on Twitter, at Guesman, at Galaxy Podcast, at Galaxy Podcast on Threads, cornerofthegalaxy.com, YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all those fun places. Anywhere you find a podcast, you can find us, Corner of the Galaxy. Been around for 15 years, almost 1,100 shows. We're going to be around for next year and next week and all those fun things ahead. The LA Galaxy trying to wrap up a chase to the playoffs, playing Portland on Saturday. Big game, must win. Here we go. All right, thank you to Will Misselbrook one more time. Thank you to the LA Galaxy for making them available to us. And, of course, a big shout-out to all our listeners. For Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira, I'm Josh Pato Guesman. You've been listening. You've been watching to our little Corner of the Galaxy. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.